They say the most dangerous man is the one who has mastered himself, not the loudest in the room, not the one constantly looking for a fight, but the man who could destroy yet chooses not to. He is dangerous because he's in control. This philosophy goes back thousands of years, to Stoics, to warriors, to kings. If you want to be powerful without becoming a tyrant and master strength and self-control, then this is the path you must take. Watch the whole video to learn 6 powerful lessons on how to become dangerous. It won't be what you expect. Lesson 1. Power without control is a threat. No man is free who is not master of himself. Epictetus. The Stoics taught that self-mastery is the foundation of freedom. Power without discipline leads to chaos. Think of a sword in the hands of a child. Dangerous, yes, but also foolish. Now imagine that sword in the hands of a samurai, calm, deliberate, and trained. Power with restraint. That is respect. That is fear. That is influence. Lesson 2. Choose peace. Miyamoto Musashi was the deadliest swordsman in Japanese history. Over 60 duels, undefeated, many before he turned 30. But here's the twist. After all that killing, he walked away from violence. He lived in isolation, meditating, painting and writing. His book, The Book of Five Rings, isn't just about swordsmanship. It's about mindset, clarity and strategy. Musashi understood something. True strength is not in how many you defeat, but in how many fights you choose to avoid. Lesson 3. Never abuse power. This was not just a rule, but a guiding principle for those who held authority in ancient Rome. In a world where might often made right, the temptation to misuse power was everywhere, especially for those at the top. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor of Rome, led his legions through brutal and unforgiving military campaigns on the Germanic frontiers. The stakes were high and the pressure immense. Every decision could mean life or death for thousands. Yet even in the thick of war, surrounded by chaos and violence, Marcus carried with him a simple journal. His meditations. This was not a book for others, but a private space where he could confront his own thoughts and weaknesses. Each day he reminded himself to remain calm, to act justly, and to resist being swayed by anger or impulse. He knew that true strength was not just in commanding armies, but in mastering oneself. Imagine that. The most powerful man in the world, surrounded by loyal soldiers and immense authority, taking time to write to himself about not abusing power. He understood that unchecked power could corrupt even the noblest intentions. Marcus believed that before you could hope to control others, you first had to control yourself. Self-discipline, humility, and reflection were his shields against the temptations of absolute power. His soldiers followed him not just because of his rank or title, but because of his restraint, his wisdom, and the example he set. In the end, it was his character, not just his command, that earned their respect and loyalty. Lesson 4. Discipline through training. In the world of martial arts, every movement, every repetition, and every moment spent on the mat is a lesson in self-mastery. The dojo is not just a place to learn how to fight, it's a place to learn how to control your mind, your body, and your emotions. Each time you step onto the mat, you're making a commitment to become better than you were yesterday. Why do martial artists bow before sparring? This simple gesture is more than just tradition. It's a sign of mutual respect, a reminder that your opponent is not your enemy, but your partner in growth. The bow is a silent agreement to push each other, to test each other, and to help each other improve. Why do black belts teach white belts respect before they ever throw a punch? Because true strength begins with humility. Before you learn to strike, you learn to listen. Before you learn to win, you learn to lose with grace. Respect is the foundation upon which all skill is built. Because martial arts is not about fighting, it's about discipline through fighting. Training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, or boxing is a journey inward. It's a test of your patience, your perseverance, and your willingness to confront your own weaknesses. Every drill, every sparring session is an opportunity to face yourself. These arts will expose your ego, strip away your illusions, and reveal who you truly are. When you look in the mirror after a tough session, you see not just sweat and bruises, but the truth about your character. You'll confront your fear of failure, fear of pain, fear of not being enough. You'll face your pride, learning that victory is fleeting and humility is lasting. Every loss is a lesson, every setback a chance to grow. It forces you to be humble, to learn and to accept that mastery is a lifelong pursuit. You become a student not just of martial arts, but of life itself. You learn to control your breath and your thoughts, finding calm in the chaos. Through meditation and mindful breathing, you discover the power of presence, the ability to stay focused, even when everything around you is uncertain. Seneca once wrote, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity. Adversity is the crucible in which character is forged. Without challenge, there can be no growth, no true understanding of your own strength, for he is not permitted to prove himself." Martial arts is adversity, daily. Every training session is a test, every opponent a mirror reflecting your strengths and weaknesses. The struggle is constant, but so is the progress. But through it, you prove yourself, not to others, but to you. The real victory is not in defeating your opponent, but in conquering your own limitations. This is the modern path to Stoic power, a journey of discipline, respect, and relentless self-improvement. Lesson 5. Learn to control your violence. It's a concept that might sound paradoxical at first, but it's at the very heart of true strength. To be dangerous is not to be wild or out of control. It's to possess the ability to act with force, but to choose when, where, and how to use it. This is the difference between chaos and discipline, between recklessness and mastery. Jordan Peterson said, "A harmless man is not a good man." This statement challenges the common belief that being gentle or passive is the same as being virtuous. In reality, harmlessness often comes from weakness, not from moral choice. True goodness is not the absence of power, but the presence of power that is consciously restrained. No modern warrior embodied this principle better than Bruce Lee. Though often remembered for his speed and strength, what truly set him apart was his philosophical depth. He once said, "It is better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war." This isn't just about preparedness, it's about cultivating power without the need to unleash it recklessly. Lee trained his body like a weapon, but he trained his mind like a monk. He believed that true mastery wasn't about domination, but about discipline, about knowing when not to strike. In many ways, Lee lived like a Stoic. He fused physical intensity with emotional control. He taught that violence should be the last resort, not the first impulse. His garden was built on martial arts, philosophy, and self-reflection, yet underneath it all stood a warrior, sharpened but restrained. A good man is a very dangerous man who has it under voluntary control. He's someone who has trained his body and mind to be capable of great force, but who chooses to act with wisdom and restraint. This is the man who can defend himself and others, but who does not seek out conflict for its own sake. And this also echoes the Stoics perfectly. The ancient Stoics believed that true strength lies in self-mastery. They taught that discipline, not aggression, is the mark of a powerful individual. The warrior who can control his impulses, who can walk away from unnecessary fights, is the one who truly understands power. A weak man cannot offer peace, he only offers submission. When you lack the ability to defend yourself or stand your ground, your so-called peace is just surrender. It's not a choice, but a necessity born from fear or incapacity, but a man who could hurt you and chooses not to. That man earns respect, he carries presence, he doesn't bark, he doesn't posture, he simply is. His confidence is quiet, his strength is felt, not flaunted. People sense his capability, and that's why they respect him. Not because he's loud, but because he's in control. Your job is to become that man. Train your body relentlessly. Forge your mind through discipline and learning. Hone your skills, not just for show, but so you can stand tall in any situation. The process is demanding, but it's what separates the strong from the weak, the respected from the ignored. And then, learn to sit still. True power is not just in action, but in the ability to be calm, composed, and at peace with yourself. Mastery is knowing when to act and when to simply be. Lesson 6. Strength through restraint and purpose. The Spartans were not just warriors. They were weapons forged with purpose. From the age of 7, Spartan boys were taken from their homes and placed into the agoge, a brutal training system that broke the weak and forged the strong. They endured hunger, cold, beatings, and relentless drills, not to glorify violence, but to strip away ego, fear, and impulsiveness. Every hardship was designed to refine discipline, to teach that power without control was a threat to society, not a service. They were taught to speak little, to obey swiftly, and to think deeply. In fact, the word laconic comes from Laconia, the Spartan homeland, because Spartans were masters of saying more with less. This silence wasn't shyness, it was restraint. The same restraint that made them dangerous on the battlefield and unshakable in the face of fear. Take the Battle of Thermopylae. 300 Spartans held off tens of thousands of Persians, not just through skill, but through unyielding purpose. They didn't die for glory. They stood their ground to delay the enemy, to protect Greece, to send a message that virtue and duty were worth dying for. This is what it means to create power with purpose. Stoicism and Spartan life share this core truth. Power is meaningless if it is not in service of virtue. It is not enough to be strong. You must be strong for something, whether it's martial arts, leadership, fatherhood, or personal growth. Channel your discipline, your suffering, your training into something higher than ego. Power without purpose is just noise, but power guided by principle is unstoppable. Don't aim to be feared, aim to be respected. Be someone others rely on in crisis. Someone others hesitate to cross, not because you're reckless, but because they sense you're capable. Train like a warrior, think like a philosopher, act like a king. That is the Stoic path to becoming dangerous without ever losing control. If this message stirred something in you, if you're walking the path of discipline, strength, and wisdom, then join us. Like the video, subscribe, and become part of a community where ancient wisdom fuels modern warriors.